Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our August 5th council meeting. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Roll call.
Mr. Oja?
Here.
Mr. Menegini?
Here.
Dr. Hayes?
Here.
Mr. Gottstein?
Here.
Mr. Babalani?
Here.
I need approval of the minutes of the regular meeting of July 15th. Any additions or corrections? I've got one correction, Tricia, back on the last page of the minutes in the citizens' comment. Marcia Goldswag was listed as giving comment. She was not at the meeting. So she did not give comment during citizen comment. Is there any other additions or corrections?
With that correction, I'd like to make a motion, we approve the regular meeting notes from July 15th, 2013.
Support. Motion made by Mark, supported by Dr. Hayes. Roll call.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes. Approval manifest 2013-15 in the amount of $982,102.75. Dr. Hayes.
No comments.
Lee.
I know we have to pay it, but I don't like the municipal actuarial study for DC benefit program. And I have a question on page 2, heating fuel expense, City Hall, $326. I mean, is the heat going out 1 minute and air conditioning on the next?
We've had incidences where that's been the case. That's the system that we've been talking about. We've got to upgrade.
I know we've been talking
We
about...
turned the boiler off completely.
Okay, we've been talking about this system for
There was
2 years
a-
now.
I know, but that's a budget issue.
Yeah. Page, no, I think it's page 3 here, the numbers are cut off. Under General Fund Refuse Collection, UP Truck Center, Inc., Dash Assembly number 130, $1,800. What is going on, Dash Assembly? Is that plow truck? What is that?
No, it's for the garbage truck, Lee. The dash actually fell off of the garbage truck. All the screws are stripped out, and it came totally out, and they had to replace the dash and replace some of the firewall to get a dash back in it.
Okay, I know it's getting in bad shape, and we do have money for a new one when we get to it. Last page, almost like things are doubled up here, or they're like, let's see here, North Alert Ambulance Authority, taxes being paid or collected, 6,056, and then 5,026. Why are they in, they're under the same number and everything, but why would they be under two items instead of just one item?
Those were two separate payouts. Because our last meeting was July 15th, I paid out the taxes. I paid them out on the 15th, so it wasn't on the last manifest, and then I paid them out at the end of the month.
Oh, okay.
So it's two separate checks.
And there's a couple other items that are like that too, so it must all be the same deal.
Right.
Okay, that's all I have.
Okay, Mark.
I got a couple, Jeremy. On page 1 down on the bottom, Ray, Beck's Ornamental, $111 to cut the grass on 101 9th Avenue.
That would be one of the property maintenance.
$101 to cut one lawn?
That's what, if it came out to that, that's what he charged.
Wow. That's interesting.
That's reimbursed. Obviously, we charge that against the homeowner and or business, and then times the 15%.
On, I think it's, let me see here, the page numbers.
We are advised not to put our own employees on private property, to use contractors. So, and we did spread it around. So,
On page 3, Under the general refuge collection, professional services, Great American Disposal, the 20-yard, is that the dumpster that's over by the shop, Joe?
Yes, it is.
Okay, what's that right underneath it then? Great American year-round rubbish cleanup, $257.80. I thought we weren't doing any street cleanup, pickup, curbside pickup for fall or pickup. It's $257.80.
I don't think that's what it is, Mark, but I'm not 100% sure why it's written that way. Let me check on that. I don't want to tell you something that's not correct, so let me check on it and get back to you, okay?
Okay. I got another one under the electric side, Joe. I don't know if I should mention it right at this time, but I'm gonna anyway. It was $21,000 for the Energist, for, I believe that was only 2 guys, right?
Correct.
Was that 2 guys?
Yep.
I still do not understand why we had in the budget 3 guys for the electric, and the council had an agreement, we were only gonna hire 2, when we got rid of the Energist. And I still do not understand why we got 3 full-time that we've taken on now. When the council agreed we were gonna try it with 2, and we put 3 in the budget, and all of a sudden, all 3 are here. You know, we're looking to try to save some money here.
I'm not sure, I'm a little confused, Mark. I'm not sure that we had a specific agreement that we weren't going to
Well, we
hire
sat,
3. We talked about having 3 linemen.
no,
And we
when
talked about a
when we
foreman
talked
and
about it,
two additional
I
linemen.
guess I'd like to hear from the other guys. I know Dave
Okay.
Rousey thought maybe we should do 3, but I was under the impression we had an agreement we were gonna try 2, and then all of a sudden we got 3. We're not gonna save any money if we keep doing this kind of thing.
Well, we have to get the work done, Mark, so I
know
guess
we
I
have
have
to
a
get the work done,
difference of
Ray, but
opinion.
There's comes a point in time that we gotta start tightening things up around here.
I guess I'd like to hear that from the council as well, as to whether or not you had an understanding that we weren't going to put the 3 linemen on. Because I wasn't under that understanding.
You were in the room.
I guess I heard something different, Mark.
The way I understood, we were gonna try a crew of 4 initially. That would be, and then we were gonna evaluate whether we could get it done with 4. That's how I remember, instead of a flat crew of 5. That's how I remember it. But I don't remember a lot. That's what we were gonna try.
We have 1 working foreman and 3 linemen and 1,
I think
Utility
the
type, general.
utility, who was it, the utility board, the electrical board had recommended that we go with 5 as a minimum. But I really don't
But
remember
then
if
why
we
all of a
decided
sudden-
on
but
2
then why all of a
versus
sudden
3.
did we take on 2 with Energist and then we decide to hire 3 full-time instead of the 2?
well, we were
Why
going to
wouldn't-
hire the working foreman, and we were going to hire 2 additional linemen, and we had 2 people on staff. And we elevated one of the guys that was on staff to working foreman. So from our perspective, we replaced the person that went to working foreman with the lineman, and we had 3 very good applications, so we hired
A
3.
working foreman does perform the duty, right?
He performs the duties, but he also is doing multiple things, and multiple operations are going. He is responsible. for
I thought we had a
couple of
utility director that was overseeing the electric department.
And he's overseeing the wastewater, and he's overseeing the water, and he's overseeing the roads, and he's not at the job sites specific, he's going to multiple departments.
Which, it just seems funny that, you know, we take on Energist and we only take on 2 guys and then boom, we got 3. Why wouldn't we have
Well, that
taken
was a
on 3?
holding pattern.
Why
Remember, that
wouldn't we
was a
have
holding
taken
pattern.
on 3 with Energist when we took them on?
Remember, that was a holding pattern until we got contract issues worked out, until, like, working with Energis or working with our own contract, so, I mean, that's,
And we wonder why we can't get any roads fixed.
well, the electric department doesn't fix the roads, but that's,
Yeah, but we use the general fund money, for different projects and shuffle things around. So in a sense, it does,
The general fund doesn't go towards projects for the utilities. It's vice versa. The utilities help out the general fund. So, I mean,
Well, we've transferred $280,000 for roads already this year out of the electrical fund, and I think things are going fine down there. Now that everything is finally squared away, we're making good money down there.
Any other manifest?
no,
Chris?
Most of mine were answered. I had two underneath the electric fund. There was a Kaiser Hydro Unit 4 wiring. Was that an old project, or is that?
No, there was a control problem with unit number 4. Kept tripping itself offline, even, I shouldn't say offline, it kept tripping itself, even when it was not online, okay? And I went down there and traced out the wires as much as I could figure out exactly what was going on, and I needed some help. And so I called in one of the Kaiser electricians, who's worked on that unit quite a bit, to come in for assistance.
Okay. And then right beneath that one, cyber zone for router and fiber storm damage. Was the
that
fiber
was-
itself actually damaged?
That was a lightning strike,
Okay.
very close to the plant, and it took out several routers. We had to replace some routers, and there was one other Cisco switch.
But the physical fiber wasn't damaged?
No, the fiber was not
Okay.
damaged.
It's just, it said fiber
was-
storm damage.
It was on the fiber
On the
ring.
fiber ring. Okay.
Yeah, it was on the fiber ring.
Okay. That's all I have.
The only, it's not really a question, more of a comment that I have is on page 2, DPW. I've brought it up before. I still don't think the city should be paying for the coffee for DPW. I think that's something, if they want coffee at the building, they should be providing it themselves, not the city. With that, if there's no other questions, looking for a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion, we approve manifest 2013-15 in the amount of $982,102.75.
Support.
Motion made by Chris, supported by Lee. Roll call.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menigini?
Yes.
Okay, does anyone from the audience wish to address the council on the minutes, manifest, or any agenda item? If you do, please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. If not, there'll be a further time for comment at the end of the meeting.
Good evening. My name is Jean Bradford. I live at N2465 Travis Farm Road. And I 100% agree with Mark's comment that you have to control this money you're spending. When you're talking about cutting the grass, as simple as that, there was a second grass cutting. I'm assuming those will be reimbursed, both of them.
Yes.
One on 10th Street, one on 16th Avenue. And those are vacant units, or what are they?
I don't know if the units are vacant or not. I know that the process was they were sent letters, informed that they needed to cut it. They didn't cut it within the time. So we contracted with Beck to cut it. Now, the charges for that will be charged back to the addresses. If they don't pay it, it'll then go on the taxes.
Okay. And I 100% agree with Mr. Mangini about the high cost of insurance this city pays. And I don't know if you review that periodically, or is that open for discussion ever in your budgets? I mean, what you're paying Blue Cross Blue Shield is outrageous. And I guess when I look over the manifest, several things came out. Maybe they're easy answers. What is the safety program? I noticed each of the departments basically attended that. And I'm looking right now at the Department of Public Works, and that was $1,000, but it looks like it's charged to each group.
We're with several other utilities to help pay for our safety coordinator.
That's a gentleman.
That's paying for the safety coordinator to come into the city to help with our safety programs, making sure we're up to date on OSHA stuff, on the OSHA stuff that we need to be. And that's our part of the charge. It's billed out to all the utilities. They each get a piece of this charge. And we share this guy with, how many other utilities, Joe?
Right, I recall who you're
Yeah.
talking about now. Then, does he come once a year, or is this?
No.
No,
He's here 4 times a month in the city to work
And-
on OSHA policies and procedures that we have to comply with, and then do all the training for bloodborne pathogens, hearing conservation. There's a whole gamut of different things that he has to train on.
But none of this can be done in-house by supervisors of the department? I mean, in OSHA rules, I understand change, but not every 3 months.
Now, we had, before I came here, and the first few years that I was here, tried to do it in-house, and it just wasn't accomplishing anything. So then this opportunity came up to share this individual with 5 other municipalities in the region, and we all went in together and decided to hire this individual to take care of those needs after we had 2 OSHA citations in the city of Norway.
However, I assume that is all corrected, and is there a way that we can have less outside training and do it ourselves? I'm sure there's many small businesses that don't contract safety training.
No, I'm sure there are, yes, there's ways to have that stuff done, yes.
Prior to 2000, OSHA, the IRS, a number of these federal agencies targeted their programs towards the private sector. And municipalities were basically left unchecked. After 2000, the private sector pretty much got up to speed, and they started to really focus their efforts on the municipalities. It's not a matter of just creating something and then moving on. They are annually looking at and changing the requirements that we have to fall under. In the last 10 years alone, there's probably 1 municipality each year in the UP alone that gets an IRS audit, which never happened before. So what they've done is they've pretty much focused their efforts on the public sector, at least in the last decade. So when we looked at our program, we weren't up to the requirements that we needed to be, and with everything else going on within the organization, it was talked about throughout the UP on how do we work together to try and collaborate, using the governor's term, to make sure that we meet the requirements that not only OSHA but my OSHA puts on us. That's why we continue this effort with our safety program, and that's why
So
we
what
brought
is
it
the
to council.
total cost of this? I mean, every department is paying,
Joe, what does it pay? What do we pay on an
what
annual
is the
basis?
total?
It's right at that $20,000 mark for the
About
year
20.
annually. Might be 21 and some change, but right in there.
Okay. I still think, maybe you could cut that down, maybe we could save some money. I mean, this manifest, it's lucky I'm not having a heart attack here. You're spending $1 million, and this city is a total population of probably 3,000 people, if that
How much of
many.
that is taxes, Mary?
About half.
484,000.
This time of year, we have this type of manifest because we have to pay out the taxes.
I 100% agree with the taxes. I have to come up with $3,339.13 next week.
No, but we have to pay out to the other taxing districts, and it goes across our manifest as an expense. That's why this looks so high.
And the same thing with your, the employee wages. When you combine these two pay dates, the 81,000 and the 87,000, that comes to $169,102.80 for 25 days of work, and that includes one holiday. You divide that, that comes out to like $260.10 daily per employee. So there's a lot of money spent for employees as well.
And that's all collectively bargained, that's all negotiated.
And that could bring, I mean, I could be up here 10 minutes. That could be that I see there's a charge for another attorney for labor negotiations for like $3,000. Why does that happen always?
That was the attorney we used to help us with contract negotiations, because we had four labor contracts that were up this year.
And so those are all completed?
We shouldn't see much from Steve at this point, it should be, right?
It's complete now unless there was something right in the last 2 weeks that he's finalizing. Should be done.
All right. Well, I have other questions, but I'll ask at the end of the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for your questions. Does anybody else have any questions or comments?
Good evening, my name is Mark Maloney. I'm the business manager of Local 219 of the IBEW. I'd like to reserve comments for the last item on the agenda,
Okay.
so
Yep,
I'll
we'll
address
give you
that.
plenty of time to anything you got to say during that. We'll
Very good,
let you come
thank
on
you.
up. Anybody else? Okay, moving on from that, we have first thing we have this evening is a public hearing. It's closeout notice, community development block grant for infrastructure improvements in the downtown Norway for paving alleyways and parking lots and park enhancement. Need a motion to go into public hearing.
Make a motion, we go into public hearing.
Support.
Motion made by Chris, supported by Mark. Roll call.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As part of the requirements under a CDBG project, the Community Development Block Grant Project, it's our requirement to put together a closeout public hearing. I've given you the final progress report and laid out the project in your packet. I don't know if you have any questions, but basically, we ended the project, even with the 3 change orders that we had in the project, we ended the project right at the engineer's estimate to start the project. So thought it was a successful project. I know that we've had some comments as to why we're not going out into the streets and why we're doing alleys and parking lots, but quite frankly, this is a specific project or program that's targeted for the main street or downtowns only. And it's an 80% grant. The DDA, who they cannot put their monies outside of their district, so they must look at enhancements within their own district, which is basically the downtown and up along the highway. So, but this particular project is now complete, and we're looking to move forward and close this project out.
Any
I got
comments?
a question. I don't think the project is complete unless this problem was taken care of last week. There's a sewer line that's behind Norway Mercantile that was plugged off. It's used for flushing. And,
Well, that project is being completed. The contractor, that was a mistake by the engineer and the contractor. They have this, it's not going to cost the city a dime on the project, so they're going to take care of that. They're waiting till Baco paves so that they can have hot mix when they make the final patch.
so can this be finalized without that, the actual work being complete?
Well, I'm going to talk to Peter down at QPAD, and what we'll do is we'll withhold sending the final report in for, 30 days, just to make sure that gets done. But as far as the public hearing goes, we can say that the project is in essence complete.
I think we should hold up the funding until it's, till it is totally complete, to make sure it gets done,
Yeah,
not just a portion.
they basically, they did come hat in hand. I mean, they're obviously not happy with how that turned out. They made a mistake. They're gonna do what's right. You know, we've had multiple conversations with both the engineer and the contractor, and so I'm pretty confident that they're not gonna wanna have a black eye on this one. So they're gonna do what they need to do to get it done.
Any other comments? Any comments from the public? Any other comments? Any other comments? Okay, hearing none, I'm looking for a motion to close public hearing, go back into regular session.
Make a motion, we close public hearing.
Support?
Motion made by Lee, supported by Mark. Roll call.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
In our communications this evening, we have 8 things on the agenda. The first one is approval of ordinance number 408, an ordinance to revise ordinance number 399 of August 6, 2012, to regulate the sale and use of fireworks within the city. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. After we had passed ordinance 399, which is basically the new fireworks ordinance in the state, the legislature has come through under numerous complaints, or from numerous complaints about fireworks being fired off at late, early morning times. And so this past year, they passed a new statute, or amended the state statute, which allowed communities to regulate the time from, say, 1 a.m. until 8 a.m. What we're doing here is we're adding a provision in our ordinance, changing the exception so that that time period between 1 a.m. and 8 a.m. is prohibited from shooting off the fireworks on the accepted days, those holidays, federal holidays. This is per the state statute. We cannot restrict it any more than this per that statute, so this is about the strictest we can get on the fireworks issues in the town.
Jay, have you taken a look at this?
Yes, we have, and I did talk to Chief Schaefer, who insisted that we review this, and I thought it was a good idea. We talked about it a couple of times in my office, and we revised the statute to conform with the current state statute, and it is enforceable.
Any questions, comments? Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion.
I make a motion, we approve ordinance number 408, and it's revising ordinance number 399 for fireworks.
Motion made by Mark, supported by Dr. Hayes. Roll call.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Next is approval water system SCADA change order. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The SCADA project is all but complete. Mr. Bueller is working on his final work putting into the system, but there is a request to have Johnson Control replace the chlorine pump, fluoride pump, and get that into the system. Joe, why don't you give more details on what that entails?
The reason that this is coming forward this evening to you is because in the automation project, it was not identified as an item that needed to be changed because I was under the impression from the water working foreman that the fluoride pump had the communications it needed to be put into the automation system. So I omitted that from the RFP when I went out for RFPs. When I went down to inspect the job and go over everything with Johnson Controls, it was brought to my attention that the fluoride pump, when I questioned it, didn't see it in the system. Why wasn't it there? And they said it didn't have the proper communications on it. And I said, well, that kind of defeats the purpose of the automation when it's supposed to be transferring data back to go on the spreadsheets to do the monthly reports to the state of Michigan. So I requested them to find out what the pump cost was and the installation of it and wiring it into the system, what that extra charge would be, and that's what I brought forward to you tonight to ask that that be also put in for $2,750.
Is this a standard pump, like industry standard, or is this another Johnson Controls?
No, this
specific?
is a standard pump. It's not coming from Johnson Controls. It just didn't have the communication ports on it to do what we needed it to do.
You have mentioned about the old pump being that traded in or getting something back on that?
Yeah, that pump, I don't know if you guys are going to remember, probably a little over a year ago or so, we received a grant through the state for a pump for the fluoride. It was a small grant. And basically, the pump that we have now was paid for with that grant. And at the time we ordered a pump, I had told Dave that it needed to be ordered with communications on it, and it wasn't. So they told us they would give us a credit on that pump, but they have to see it before they're going to give us the number. So it's like a $1,500 pump.
So we'll be getting something.
We're going to get something back on it. I don't know what that is yet, so.
In general, just kind of off topic on this, the SCADA project itself went well with Johnson Controls.
Yeah, it went quite well. It really did. It's pretty impressive, so. Pumps are switching automatically. The lead pump and lag pumps are switching in the system. We were able to do away with the AT&T dedicated line that costs so much now. We're not paying that anymore. So that was a big cost savings there, $800 a month. So it's going well. And as soon as Rick Bueller's done building the computer screens, we'll be able to look at it just like we do the hydro to see what's going on.
Joe, was that the company that some were skeptical on trying?
Yes, yeah, myself
we saved some
included. I will not stay out of that. I was skeptical of them because this is the first water project they've ever done. So, but as right now, there's not an issue.
Okay.
In the information, it said that there's chlorine too, but it's,
No, it's a fluoride pump, not a
Right.
chlorine pump. Fluoride.
it said chlorine in there too. I wondered why that was mentioned.
It's not chlorine. It's a mistake. It's fluoride.
Okay, any other questions? If not, I'm looking for a motion.
Make a motion that Johnson Controls be approved to replace and integrate a fluoride pump into the new water SCADA system for a price not to exceed $2,750.
Support.
Motion made by Chris, supported by Mark. Roll call.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes,
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes. Approval, hydropower house leak repair and waterproofing. Mr. Anderson.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This particular item is something that we've been looking at for a while. The powerhouse walls that hold back the water, the walls do have water leaks in them. Joe's been working with some contractors to try and get those buttoned up. Joe, why don't you give an update?
You want a little more data on what
Yeah.
exactly is going on? I didn't. I was reading something. I wasn't paying attention. The four-bay wall and the lower part of that wall is leaking water. Some of the leaks have gotten substantially bigger over the last 6 to 8 months. It's an item that we had identified before we crafted the new budgets as an item that needed to be taken care of to get better structural integrity of the walls and keep the water from leaking through. I have companies down there to take a look at it, to give ideas, and they came up with a grout insertion system that's actually going to pump grout into the areas of the leaks and migrate throughout that block area and stop it. And then they're putting a coating over that actually takes on its own life and actually grows and multiplies in the cells of the concrete block and creates a water barrier, and it is working very well to stop water leaks. And if you've all been down there, but you know how the block wall kind of turns white, and every time we paint it, 6 months later all the paint comes off. That won't happen anymore in this area. So I put it in the budget this year, and they called and told me that they had some openings at the end of August to get the work done, to move it forward, and that's what I'm doing for approval of TCR for a cost of $9,250 to do the waterproofing and leak sealing on the horizontal powerhouse walls.
Is there any kind of a guarantee with that, Joe? You said you wouldn't let the paint flake off?
Right, it's
or-
supposed to not get that white coating on it. We talked about it, he couldn't be here tonight. I thought it might be nice for him to talk more intelligently about it than what I know about it, because he has all the chemical background. But I can ask him about a guarantee. It's not written on his price quotation here about a guarantee. And, but I can follow up on that tomorrow when I talk to him and let you know.
Kaiser didn't kick in any kind of a bid on that?
No, nope. They did not.
And this doesn't address our other leak issue with the gate?
No, it does not. I've contacted 3 different companies, Kaiser including them, and I have not yet received any interest from any of the companies on repairing that gate. So, I've been in conversation late last week with a company from La Crosse who specializes in gate repair for dams, and they couldn't do it this year at all anymore, but they said that typically they fix gates in the winter, which was a surprise to me, but that's what they do. And I said, well, come over and take a look at it and see what kind of a cost we're talking about, because right now I don't have any idea. I know it's just going to be pretty expensive to repair it.
At normal water flows, Joe, do you have any idea how much CFS we're losing?
There's probably about, it looks like a lot of water, but it's really not that much. It's maybe 30 to 50 CFS leaking through the bottom of that gate. So equate that to electricity, it's not a lot. It, maybe could light a light bulb for a little while. But over a long period of time, it adds up, so.
And it's not gonna get any better?
No, it's not going to get any better, and it's only going to deteriorate because of the flow. Water erodes things and stuff, so it does need to be repaired, but it looks like we're going to have to wait, because I don't think it's going to be a project. I was hoping I'd get it this fall, but that's not going to happen.
I realize,
I want to say, this quote is from 7 months ago. Is it still valid?
Yes, it is. Yep.
I just gotta wonder a little bit on the quote. I mean, they're both practically identical. I mean, as far as work goes in this XYPX modified waterproofing system.
Yes,
But the one quote is for 92, which is great, and the other one is for over almost 15. And
Correct.
That's
That's
a
a-
big spread on a
there,
small.
okay, and I got a little bit of an explanation for that. This firm, this TCR, is local here, Iron Mountain, Kingsford, in Norway. And this quote is from another company that does the same exact type of process, but they're from Chicago. So, there's not many people around that do this application.
Okay, any other questions? If not, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make the motion that Terrazzo Creations and Renewal be approved to perform repairs to the powerhouse concrete walls for a price not to exceed $9,250.
Support.
Motion made by Lee, supported by Dr. Hayes. Roll call.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menigini?
Yes.
Okay, next on the agenda is the approval of the MEDC Downtown Infrastructure Improvement Project, change order number 2 and 3. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. These change orders, the change order number 2 was for some issues that were found on the job. There was a catch basin over in the parking lot on the corner of 6th and Main. There was some additional work that needed to be done at Railroad Avenue. So there was a number of odd jobs that we addressed in that particular change order. And then change order number 3 is a standard balancing change order. As you can see that the first change order was for $12,651.20. That was change order number 2. And the change order number 3 was actually for a deduct of $8,059.60. Brought the final contract price at $240,535.20.
Ray, which one of these items covers that payment for that line behind where I was talking about before, Norway Mercantile?
Yeah, that doesn't cover that because we're not getting charged for it.
Yeah, I know,
That's being picked
but-
up by the contractor and.
But I mean the final payment,
No, the
That would
final
be the,
payment's
that
on
would be the next thing,
This is
next
just a
agenda
change
item?
order.
the next agenda item?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the final pay request.
Okay.
One question, on the change order there, the third item, Railroad Avenue address, poor soils. It says you're, discovered that the subgrade soils under Railroad Avenue contain significant amounts of organic matter and require geogrid reinforcement to ensure pavement stability and stone bedding to ensure storm sewer pipe support. Now, this geogrid reinforcement, is that the same mesh that they put out here on 9th Avenue with that muck
same-
underneath?
Yeah, that's the same product.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
Is that typically used on a truck route?
Yeah, it's typically used in these types of areas.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions? If not, I'm looking for a motion on the change orders.
Make a motion, we approve Bachman's change order request, A and B, for the final contract price of $240,535.20.
Support.
Motion made by Dr. Hayes, supported by Lee. Roll call.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
No.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
I would like to just address, I voted no to this because during DDA, I voted no to it too because I opposed part of change order number 2. So to stay consistent, I voted no at DDA, so I'm voting no here. Okay, next on the agenda is approval, MEDC, Downtown Infrastructure Improvement Project, pay request number 2, final. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Now, there's only been one other pay request, as you can see from my report. The initial pay request of $13,487. This is the final pay request of $227,048.05. Would be the final pay request on the project. Just so you know, because I know, Mark, you'll be interested, that this request goes into the state, and we receive the money back from the state, and then we pay the contractor. So that has not happened yet. We did send paperwork into the state to expedite the process, but nothing has been paid yet until we get that back. So.
Is there any other questions or comments? If not,
Is there any way we can attach something to that, Jay, to make sure that that gets completed on a timely basis? I know we've already had some kind of a flushing problem over there, and I'd hate to see it get pushed off and then not get taken care of on a timely manner.
Well, I suppose you could say that this pay request approval is subject to the cleanup that you're referring to. And until we get that satisfaction there, that we're not going to proceed, I suppose you'd have to ask Ray about the procedure, if this is gonna tie up the funds or anything, how that's gonna handle it. But that's one thing you can do, is put it as a conditional payment.
what was the retainage that we were on the project?
Well, the retainage is 5%. It's part of this pay request. So we just won't pay the contractor. I mean, we still want to get the money back from the state because it takes a length of time. And if there's no issue with the final value, there's no reason to not send it into the state so we get our money.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then just
we
hold the money.
We just hold that. I mean, it's their mistake if they're gonna put this kind of money onto one pay request and have a problem where we end up holding it rather than breaking it apart. So we'll just have to wait until we get final resolution on it.
I'm comfortable with turning it into the state, but I think we should hang on to it until it gets taken care of.
So how would that work, Jay, for,
Well, I think we just retain it and dedicate to them.
but do we approve the pay request now, or?
I think according to what Ray said, we want to do that so we get the money, but before we disperse the final payment to the contractor, we want to make sure that we hold back enough to do the repairs if they didn't.
Okay.
And I would guess by the time that the money arrives, if it's going to take 30 to 45 days, that they should have
It'll
that
be done. Should be done by
Yeah,
then.
and then we'll know, and if it isn't, of course, we'll address that before we even get the check and tell them, get yourself in gear and get this thing done.
Okay.
So we get some time, we got some time to play with that.
Okay. Is there any other questions, comments? If not, I need a motion.
I'll make the motion that Balco's request for payment number 2 be approved for $227,048.05.
With the withholding when we get it here? Or
With
you
the
can't?
withholding when we get it here.
Okay, I'll support it.
Motion made by Lee, supported by Mark. Roll call.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Approval, snow blower rebuild. Mr. Anderson.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is something we talked about a few years back when we were looking at some of the ARA money for equipment. Our large snow blower that we use on just about every snow event is in really poor condition. It's one of the pieces of equipment that we wanted to get replaced. They would not allow us to replace it in the program, no matter how much we tried to get it to swap around and do what we needed to do. So we put monies in the budget to at least have repair work done on this piece of equipment. It's a structural problem. It's the type of work that we typically have Peterson Welding, and I know that in the past there's been some concern or comments made, so we wanted to make sure that council was well aware of us going over there. This particular cost on this is for $4,000, so we felt we should bring it to council, get approval.
I know Peterson's the only one in town who really does this kind of work on this kind of scale. So, and I think it's important on this just to support Peterson, support the local business. And that's the main reason why there isn't multiple quotes looking outside the city, because they're the only ones in the city.
Is that billed through the DDA? Billed to the DDA, because that's used on the Main Street?
No, it's not billed to the DDA. I mean, we could bring it to them and see if they'd be willing to contribute towards it, but I don't think I would recommend holding it up on that. I think we need to have it fixed and ready to go. It's not 100% used in the DDA, so the auditor would have an issue with a DDA just picking up 100% of the cost. So, but, I mean, they could contribute towards it if we bring that request to them.
I think we should put in that
Sure.
request. I think the majority of the use is on the Main Street, right?
It's used on 4th Avenue, but yeah, I would say majority of it is. It's used in other situations.
Well, Petersons do good work, I know that. And like you said, they're the only ones around that really do it. And when the mines were running, they did all their heavy welding and patching. Only question is, for the 4,000, what do you think we'll get out of that, Joe? I mean, what's the rest of that piece of equipment like?
Well, I was just going to inform everybody that not only this welding part needs to be done, and the internal housing of the blower area needs to be rebuilt. The bottom scraper area is all rusted out, and the sides, that's basically the scope of Peterson's work. There's new bearings for the augers, sprocket. So I budgeted a total of $9,000 for the repair. I don't think we'll spend $9,000. Rick is collecting all the costs for the bearings and sprockets. But I would anticipate another probably total of $3,000, $4,000 going into it.
Not counting labor,
Not-
because that's in-house.
Right, not counting the labor,
Parts.
because, yeah. And so I just want everybody to be aware of it, that,
What kind of life would we then get out of it now?
once it's rebuilt, I don't think you're gonna need a new one for probably another 7 to 10 years. So I'm thinking we're good to go. Rick rebuilt the motor on it, so that's not an issue.
How old originally is this thing?
Ooh, boy, that's a good question. I don't have the equipment sheet in front of me to tell you the age, but
I know it's old.
it's probably over 20 years old, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, way over.
Yeah, okay.
And a new one would run
$140,000.
under,
Yep.
It was basically the same thing we talked about with the sweeper.
yeah, that we could, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that would have been a better investment than a sidewalk machine.
Yeah, but we
wouldn't-
didn't get grant
they
for
wouldn't
this
let
one.
us
We-
do that.
We went through
We-
that
we
in
put in for it.
excruciating
Okay.
We tried,
detail.
Mark.
We tried very hard.
Any other comments? No, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion that Peterson Weldon be approved to rebuild a snow blower unit for a price not to exceed $4,000.
Support.
Motion made by Lee, supported by Mark. Roll call.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menigini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Next, approval of the personnel contract, city assessor. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, this was brought up at our last meeting, it was tabled. We did have a meeting with the assessor and Councilmember Mangini, and Mayor Oja sat with us, so we went through that. I think we came to conclusion that the contract as presented was fair and equitable, and ready for council approval, I guess, unless you have any questions.
Lee, I know you had some questions. Were your questions handled at the meeting?
They were all answered very well.
Is there any other questions or comments? If not, I'm looking for a motion.
I make a motion, we approve the agreement for Mr. Wiseman, the city assessor.
Support.
Motion made by Mark, supported by Lee. Roll call.
Mr. Menigini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes. The last thing on the agenda this evening is approval wastewater treatment plant contract operations. Mr. Anderson.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I put all of this information in your packet at the last meeting. Over the last 8 months, Joe and I have worked with receiving RFQ quotations on what it would take to have a contract operations at the wastewater treatment plant. We spent a lot of time, once we got those proposals in, looking at our existing budget and where we're moving forward. Of course, we always do a 5-year projection. We also spent a lot of time talking with there were 2 contractors that submitted proposals. We spent a lot of time talking about or investigating the 2 contractors. We did narrow it down to, we did select one to continue our discussions. So basically, and we also wanted to look at, or needed to look at, how do we handle the transition. We do have 2 employees at the plant. Both employees would maintain or continue working at the city of Norway, and our recommendation is to move forward with contract operations. This will save the city money. It will save the wastewater budget $26,000 a year for the first 4 to 6 years, and then after that, roughly $90,000 a year. So I know that this is the first time it's come to the council at the council meeting, but like I said, I did put all of the same information in your packet at the last meeting. The last bit of information that we were trying to negotiate with the company was with their contract, and all of our contract questions and concerns were taken care of. So I did run that through Jay's office, and we spent a lot of time, looking at this. So I'm going to just open it up for questions, because if you would like to table it and continue this discussion over the next couple of weeks, we're fine with that. But as my response, it's my responsibility to evaluate our operations, evaluate our budget, and look at those times when you know, sometimes we may have to make a change and move forward in a little different direction. This is probably one of those times. And if you so choose to continue with our current status quo or with our own operations, we're fine, we'll move forward. But we felt like we had to at least give you the opportunity to review this and make a decision.
I guess I'd like to say a few things. I don't understand why we're transferring 2 full-time men over to an area that the general fund supports when we have an opportunity to save some money by taking on the part-time people that we talked about. I think we're transferring into a bad area, and we're actually adding staff because we're taking on a contractor.
We're actually only transferring 1 employee. We had a retirement in the DPW, and we're transferring 1 employee to fill the void over into that department. The other employee is going to stay at the wastewater plant and work in contract with the contractor.
I don't understand why we're transferring them into an area that's hurting the most, that's supporting our street fund. We should be taking on some part-time people in the DPW with limited benefits. And I think that's where the savings is going to be. I think we got problems in the general fund, and we're adding to our problems.
I'd like to hear what this gentleman has to say.
Good evening. Once again, my name is Mark Maloney. I'm the business manager of Local 219 of the IBEW. We represent the supervisors unit with the city. I had asked Ray months ago to keep me in the loop of this. I wish I had some of the information that you had in your packet. He had told me you were supposed to meet last week, that we were going to review some of the contract items, but he didn't have the answers. I was out of town on Friday. I cautioned the council to look at this very detailed. I have talked to Mary. She said the preliminary reports are that there will be a money savings. There will be more money savings years down the road when we have some more retirements. In representing my member, he's of course nervous. The fact that the redefining of his position down there may be a contract violation of the existing contract. Any negotiation of a different type of a job description is a negotiated item. So I just want to again reiterate with the council, please be cautious and make sure we have all the I's dotted and the T's crossed. That's all I have at this time.
Okay, thank you.
With all the retirements that we've had here, I think we have a very good opportunity to save some money with part-time people. And I do not understand why we're taking this as a stance at transferring into a bad area.
What I was told, if we were to maintain or continue down with our current operations, that the request would be coming to hire a replacement for the retired operator at the wastewater plant. So we would in essence be asked to look at that operations and be adding an individual onto our payroll. So I thought that it was important for us to look at this as an opportunity. You know, you have different times when it makes sense to evaluate how you handle your operations, similar to what we did in some of the other departments, actually since I've been here. I think it's something that our citizens, our ratepayers, should ask of us. You're correct. We are very conscious of making sure that our employees are not hurt in this process, but we can't guarantee that they're going to always do exactly the same type of work day in and day out. That is what I call the flexibility, and I call the flexibility in question when I talked with the supervisor at the plant. So that is one of the reasons why this opportunity needed to be further explained or at least investigated. Now, it's, again, Joe and I both, you know, we will do whatever the council sees fit, if they want to continue with the operations, but with everything that's going forward, especially in the wastewater fund, we just thought that we needed to investigate this fully. I do appreciate the business manager's comments about contract violation. However, I do think that that's a little unfounded in the sense that we are protecting the employee who's staying there, and yes, his duties may change and probably will change if this goes through. However, he is covered, and if we need to move forward in having those contract discussions, I'm well prepared to do that because of our fiduciary responsibility and our management's responsibilities. I think it's incumbent upon us to take on that challenge. And yes, I didn't provide you with the contract, but it wasn't negotiated. We don't have a habit of handing out unnegotiated contracts. And I said that to the employees, and I said that to you. Also, I did promise we would try to get together on Wednesday. I couldn't get together because I didn't have the information. It wasn't going to do any good.
And that you shared with me.
Yes, and you were gone, so we didn't. But I will say that, I mean, it is my job to bring these to you and let you, you know, ask those questions. I appreciate those. We looked at the DPW, and we looked at, you know, the water fund and some of the other areas that would be, you know, that we had retirements from, and we felt like this was probably as prudent a way of going as, you know, financially as we could offer.
If we opted not to do this, what would we do to cover the weekend rotations, especially now being a man down?
Well, we have, you know, we can talk about cross-training with some of our employees in the DPW.
Do we have some qualified people over there right now?
We have some of our employees that did go through the cross-training. They would have to go back through and get retrained. And of course, we'd be talking with the union of ASME, you know, in that case. So we'd have some of those contract discussions starting up. But again, it's a little bit premature to say that we could just call it a management's rights issue. I'd have to look at it a little closer to see if we have that ability just to say on a permanent basis. On an emergency basis, I would feel pretty comfortable saying, hey, I need you to go down there, take care of it, help us out. And they would do it
Isn't
on a
one of
permanent
the,
basis.
is
So
one of the members' benefits package, insurance packages charged out through the?
Yes, what we did was, we had one of the wastewater employees, we had three operators down there. We actually took one and had them come down into the DPW. Now, how you budget and how you cost account are two different things, because you budget to prepare for the year, but you do cost accounting when they do their jobs. So if he's working and plowing snow, he's going to charge the road fund. If he works on collection systems, he's going to charge the sewer fund. That could be anybody down there, not just the person.
So he's not always billed, his benefits package is not always charged out through the wastewater? Is that
I
what you're
think
telling me?
I think what we did was, did we charge his benefits through, but his pay was charged as cost
Yeah.
accounting?
This year, we put him back in 100% because we figured we were going to have 3 people in there.
Right. So
So then shouldn't he be in the rotation?
he's in the rotation right now.
He is in the
Yes.
rotation?
He's in the
He's in
rotation
the
right now.
rotation now.
Okay.
With this grant project we've got going on down there, is going to a private company going to affect that at all? Or have we
Not at all.
contacted the state to find out, to make sure?
Not at all. This happens in municipalities all over. I called both the DEQ and I called rural development. They don't, I mean, our operations are our operations. They care more of the balance sheet than they do about
The balance sheet's been an issue. I mean, the balance sheet's been an issue at the waste.
Has been,
I mean,
yes.
we're showing debt going forward, and the only way to fix that debt by not cutting costs is gonna be raising rates.
Absolutely.
So if we don't make a change or cut costs, we're gonna have to jump the rates up next year so that we can get that grant, 'cause wasn't that part of that grant that we had to cover our? some
Yes,
that
part
loss?
of the part of the rural development project documents, it says you have to have a rate that covers the expense and the loan for the project.
So if we don't cut these expenses, which
Right, you're gonna have to cover that.
we'd have to raise the rates to do that.
But the last thing you want to do is transfer a man's wage over there and benefits over to the Public Works Department that's already has problems, because that's why we can't get our roads taken care of. We're transferring somebody's wage over there just to make the
Well,
numbers
Mark, it's
look
gonna
good.
be a horse apiece. We're gonna not transfer a guy then, but then we're gonna raise our sewer rates to cover the cost. So
Yeah,
we may be able to pave half a block by transferring a guy, but now we're gonna charge every citizen more money for their sewer rate because we didn't transfer that guy over.
But you're transferring them over there and then you're hiring the contractor. I realize there is a savings there. But I think that this thing should take place, if it does take place, is when we have retirements.
Well, we had a retirement, that's why we
No,
brought this
no,
forward.
I mean, you have, I think, 1 or 2 guys that are looking at retiring maybe in the next 6 years or better?
We have, right, we do have 2 guys that are probably within that time frame. The 2 employees are in that time frame. But the request is gonna come, I'm sure. They've already talked about it, of actually bringing an additional person on in the wastewater plant. So, I mean, if we go forward with this.
I mean, that could be a part-time person though, correct?
I mean, it could be a part-time person, but he's on the payroll and he has the same rights. They still have to be a union person.
Yes, but I mean, you still have you have a part-time person, and, you know, you're making the wastewater look better, so you don't have to raise the rates there, but you're also,
But in 6 years,
but you're also
but in 6
hurting
years,
the general fund because you're transferring this guy over to the other area.
but in 6 years, what are you gonna do with the part-time person? You gonna lay him off?
You might have to.
Okay. If you're willing to do that in 6 years. I mean, that's,
You may have to.
Does the savings of 26,000, does that take into account the benefits for the part-time employee whose benefits are all charged to the wastewater treatment?
yes, it does. It takes that fully into account.
Are all the duties that are presently carried out by the men on the wastewater treatment plant, are they fully covered? All the things that they do?
The contractor, under their operational description, says that they will do whatever it takes in the proposal to meet the needs of the plant and meeting the discharge permit that we have with the DEQ. So that's a long answer to short, yes, it does. And it's their
covers
requirement to do it.
everything, including the collection system and?
No, the collection system, just like it is now, the collection system will be handled by our people over at the DPW.
And the pumps or
The lift stations are going to be covered under this contract.
so all the lift stations?
Yes. So this handles the plant and the lift stations. Collection is still handled by us.
All the lift stations?
Yes.
But so transferring the man over to the DPW could very well affect the water rates, right? That's part of the DPW. I mean, it could affect the water rates. You got the sewer rate looking better because you transferred the man out of there and you saved a little bit money, but you're adding expense because you're not hiring a part-time person over here. You're adding expense because you're transferring a full-time with full benefits over
But
to the.
that's covered under the budget. That's covered under the budget analysis that we did. Like, your current budget moved forward with that evaluation in it.
Yeah, but just because we pushed it through in the budget doesn't mean that we have to do it.
Well, no, but you're saying it's going to increase the rate. It's not going to increase the rates alone because it's already covered in the budget. It would be better by not having it, because we're not doing what the budget said we were going to do. But, you know, it's already covered under that scenario.
Question I have, are we gonna hire these 2 part-timers to take care of the garbage? We had talked about that.
Yes.
Okay, so that's gonna leave a regular employee to do sewer and water work, whatever,
What we need, like
what we
road
need.
work,
Okay.
you know.
So technically, you're losing one from the DPW area, and you're gaining one. Because
Correct.
the
We're
one
going to have a
full-time-
large-
Isn't there one full-time guy basically on the garbage truck?
But we're having we're being criticized on a regular basis about different, not from the council, but from getting complaints in.
Getting things done.
Of getting things done. And
Well, that's-
so, I mean,
that's where
that
I'm going.
staff load is a good staff load for us to
Yeah.
get some things done.
That's where I'm going. Will we be able to get the work done?
We have a better opportunity to get the work done, yes.
Okay.
So if we did this, we were still gonna hire the 2 part-time?
Part-time
Yeah.
garbage, yes.
Garbage.
Well, you're hiring 2 part-timers, then that would replace the 1 full-timer that we had, so you're actually adding to the staff. I mean, maybe we should sit down and restructure how we do things over there if we can't get the things done.
Well, Mark, I agree with you in principle, but like I said, I have had a difficult time getting some of the staff members to be flexible enough to have that conversation where it absolutely needed to go. And so that's part of why we're at this discussion. So maybe if you guys said, we're not going to go in this direction, maybe they would realize that they need to be more flexible in having those conversations.
You know, you look at, Ray, you look at in the last 12 years or so, I mean, we've hired a utility director for 75,000 plus vehicle. We hired a secretary over in the electric department. We hired a secretary over in the police department, and we're looking at hiring the secretary that is in the electric department that was part-time, moving her to full-time. I can't see where the workload has increased that much along with the population.
Mark, when
That
I
we're
came
adding all
here,
these expenses to it, and
Mike, when I was hired in 1999, we had 39 full-time employees. Today, we have, what, 28? So, I mean, the record is we've gone down in the number of full-time employees that we have.
how about as far as the,
Workload has increased substantially.
Because of the paperwork.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The requirements, in the electric department alone, FERC requirements and the wastewater department, you know, the permitting requirements, you know, I mean, it's more complicated. It's absolutely more complicated. We are lucky in the water that, having a well system, that it's not as complicated as, say, if we had a filtration plant. If we had a filtration plant, our rates would be higher than they are right now. So we're fortunate that way.
Now, why
But
are you?
again, I mean, but if you want to table it for 2 weeks and continue this conversation, we're fine with that. We just wanted to make sure that we have to have a direction on how we're going to move forward. So, I'm sorry.
Okay, now basically, we'd save 22, let's say 23, round it off. And then, a couple years down the road, when they have no city employees, the savings will be 91. So that's a $68,000 difference. Who's gonna pick up that slack for this company, or they're just gonna
That's a
continue
difference
with
in the
what they
labor-
have?
That's a difference in the labor cost.
That's the difference in the labor cost.
Absolutely.
How can a company with administration downstate do it for less than the city can do it? Is it the benefits, or is it the amount that the employees are
The
making?
benefits packages are not as expensive in the private company.
are we locking in like a percentage rate increase every year with this company, or?
It's a 3-year agreement, and the increase is under CPI. So it's a consumer price index. So you have 3 years. If you don't like it, you say, we don't want to do this anymore.
It's hard to get everything back in place to start over with the
Not-
city
I
to
don't-
take everything
Not in
back
this
over.
case, I mean, our employees are still here. The 2 employees that we have are still here.
They're still here for now, but I mean, if something like this goes through and we have one man with a license down there that we do need, and he decides to jump ship, and this doesn't take place after the 3 years, what are we gonna do?
Hire somebody new. Okay, what's council's pleasure on this? Do you want to table it for 2 more weeks to continue discussion, ask questions?
I want to table it.
What's your feelings, Jeremy? I think everybody's
I think we
pretty
should
much
table
said
it.
something.
Right for this, I think we should just table it tonight. And continue the discussions, that way if you got questions, bring them in, talk to Ray, talk to Mr. Maloney. Is it, yeah, if you got questions, he might be able to answer something on that from their union end. I think it'd be good to table for 2 weeks. And
I'll make a motion, we table it for 2 weeks.
Support.
motion made by Mark, supported by Dr. Hayes to table.
Mr. Gottstein?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
That's the conclusion of our regular business for this evening, ladies and gentlemen. Does anyone have any questions for the council on any topic? If you do, please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record. You'll have 5 minutes.
Bill Aslan, 507 Second Avenue, Norway. I wouldn't be doing this, but of an article that appeared in the Daily News on the 27th of last month, criticizing our local townspeople for not going the way that some people wanted it.
Yeah, I read that. I read the same article.
It was, and I'm just going to read this. I've been going over it some, but this is a note from a small-town villager to a so-called volunteer in her column on Saturday, the 27th of last month, 2013, in the Daily News. It seems that her definition of a volunteer is one that always gets their way. That is not a volunteer, but a dictator disguised as a volunteer. A volunteer is one that gives of themselves without looking or trying to get something in return. These people acted as though you took my toys away. I'm mad. You know, it was ridiculous, that response. I don't know if you read it, but you should have read it in that Saturday paper.
I did read it, and I agree. I felt it was
Right.
quite ridiculous myself.
Yeah, you know, it seems that when everything goes their way, these volunteers are happy. As an example, that when the volunteer's husband was put on the Norway School Board, there wasn't any comments made one way or the other. Should we have complained that there was, you know, they thought that was fine. But then they have to pressure the school administrator to come here and support their views, who's very new here and doesn't know a real lot about Norway yet. He hasn't been here that long. And I know he was pressured, more than likely, by them, because he's on the school board. A small town always welcomes new people to take part in their activities, but the small town villagers also have a large supply of common sense, which at many times is put to good use for the betterment of the town. And many people like to return to this area in retirement because it is a more quiet way of life, especially from large metro areas, and we welcome them. But you know, many of these people have ties to the community either through their parents or some other thing, or they vacationed here, and that's fine, but that's good. But why would these people like to come and criticize what people that have been here for many years have thought and made their decisions on things, and many have worked here or started businesses here, which they really didn't consider. It was their own concept only. However, when these villagers are asked to make a decision, we can be proud that they're willing to take a stand in the decision-making process. So I would say to the volunteer, you're welcome, but be careful that when you raise the horse's tail on our carts, be sure to stand back far enough. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jean Bradford, again, 2465 Travis Farm Road. I have a question regarding the contract for Jim, the county assessor. How long is that contract for, and how much money is he paid, and what duties is he going to be doing?
Jim, his contract is it's a year-by-year contract that, you know, it gets upped each year, basically. You know, it has not a specific termination, but it's, if we have issues, we could terminate it, he could terminate it. It's kind of going back and forth
It's a perpetual agreement, but it has clauses for both parties.
Right.
If we're not happy, either side can.
With 30-day notice, written
Yes,
notice.
we have 30-day notices and the typical protections. The contract is for $25,000, and his duties are as the assessor. He's the assistant zoning administrator and assistant code administrator. So those are his activities.
The change this time, we were adding code administrator, code enforcement onto his contract. He had been doing it, but it wasn't part of his contract, so it wasn't a priority. Now we're adding it to his contract, so it'll be more of a priority for him, so he knows where to fit it in.
The zoning, it was also not in his original contract, so we had to make accountances for that.
Okay, so the code enforcement is like the long grass and the
Yeah.
Right, the field work, a lot of field work, a lot of things he's
and
doing.
the other duties, he continues as assessor duties.
Correct.
Yes.
And it's a yearly, or can be terminated within 30 days?
30 days, right.
Okay,
By either side.
okay. Then I have another comment, and I'll stop. When the audience can address the council, it's actually after you have approved the manifest. Don't you think that it should be get our comments and then approve the manifest? Because, we can stand up here and say whatever, and, it's a done deal.
If you had questions on something during the manifest, I would be happy to have you come up and ask your questions then. After going through the council, I would be I can ask the public from now on at that time if they have manifest questions specifically. That way you can come up before we've made our motion.
Okay.
The way that the agenda's put together has been pretty historical. So there's no rhyme or reason that we've decided to do it. In a lot of places, there's only one area for citizen comment, and that's the end. They've actually put the second, the one before the communications.
Right, I know, I've been told I was out of order when there was a former mayor here.
Yeah. There are some communities that have put the citizen comments on first. Are there any citizen comments, and then they run the meeting. So, that could be, if you guys think that's a better way, we could do that.
For the manifest, I'll make sure, we'll take the board comments and then citizen comments before the approval. So you'll be able to come up during manifest to ask any questions.
Okay, I think that makes more sense, actually.
Okay.
And like coming to the meetings, like I learn something every time I'm here, so I'll keep coming and keep asking.
Well, I appreciate that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone else from the public wish to address the board? Okay, Lee.
No comments.
Dr. Hayes.
I wonder if the chips are down at the playground, have we found a solution for that?
The chips have been applied. It's already finished.
What was the cost on that, Joe?
It's in the manifest, but I don't remember what the exact,
1,500 it was, okay.
$1,150.
So I thought,
I didn't acquire the chips, golf department did. We paid for them, but he knew the place to go get them.
the special chips that we
took
had to
care of
have.
Yes, the special ones.
You can't just use chip brush from the city.
No, the bark needs to be off of them.
Jay and his office did some digging into it on chips. There are chips we need to consider using, but there are no state regulations on size of chips or American Disability Act on exact size of chips.
We had Casperson's office, McBroom's office, and about two-thirds of the departments of Lansing. My brother worked there for 25 years in the Legislative Service Bureau, so he made a couple of phone calls, and he had all kinds of people sending us emails. And we got the answer, and I shared it with our manager and the mayor, and so we got it done, and we're in compliance, or at least we're not in non-compliance, which is even more important.
I'd also like to make a comment tonight that I'd like to see the DDA or perhaps the city council or some organization having the DDA put a walkway down US 2 so that churches can be accessed, the businesses can be accessed, those on the south side of the street. And it looks like the best place would be behind the businesses, so kids can ride their bikes and not be in danger of getting run over with all the driveways. So I don't know how we proceed with that. Is anyone here on the DDA?
I know Parks and Rec has taken a look at that in the past. I don't know exactly where they are on it.
But
I think,
that would
I
be
think
in the
plan-
DDA
Well,
district.
yeah, I think planning commission's talked about it too at some point, looking at it.
In talking with the DDA, they would, in fact, we actually have budgeted items within their budget for capital expense or something like that. They recognize that's in their area. What they don't want to do, they have a limited time. They're coming from their businesses for an hour, and they actually would like to be more of the granting agent. They would like the Parks and Rec Board or another group to come up with the plan and then present them the plan. They don't want to spend that precious time that they have. They can't really go over that hour, so they have to, they would rather, they support it, but they would want the details to come from some other group. So I think the Parks and Rec Board would be a good one to start having that conversation and getting details of the pros and cons and locations and all the necessary legwork that needs to get done. Try and make it happen.
And the question is there grants, could there grants be involved through the state?
Well, I think the DNR grant would be perfect for that kind of a project.
Well, something, a DNR grant perhaps with DDA paying the, that's the third Monday of
The
third
Parks,
Wednesday, I mean. For
third Wednesday
Third Wednesday at noon.
for the DDA and then 6:30 for the Parks and Rec.
Okay, any other?
That's my comment.
Mark?
I got one. Ray, do we have any kind of an agreement with AT&T when they do the underground lines, like from the tower up by the ski hill down to the fire hall?
We
down
have
that way?
there's a standard, what they call the Metro Act, which deals with communications in right-of-way. So that's a standard agreement that they have with us. But for individual projects, they do send us information. Now, when they get up into past the tank, though, they're on a private drive. So, we don't have any real control over that area.
You look down behind the fire hall there, they went up in the right-of-way, and they exposed all the iron ore there. It was all grass hillside there. And now it's nasty looking, and I think we're gonna have a washout problem because,
Was that in the right-of-way, or was that on private property?
I hope it's
They
in
go
the
up the
right-of-way
hills.
because it's on my property otherwise, but they didn't.
If they go up the hillside,
They
They
didn't,
shouldn't be up there.
they didn't put any kind of topsoil down, they just kind of rutted through there, and it's all rough iron ore exposed now, and I think we're gonna have washout.
You have
Okay.
to contact the contractor, but typically they come back 2 or 3 weeks after they do it, they're doing restoration.
Well, they already did the restoration down by the fire hall, because I was over there the other day, and they got that all restored, and it doesn't look like they're gonna do. Doesn't. Is that something that the city would do, or is that something that?
Well, if they're violating their Metro permit, then the city would I would probably contact Marcia up at the AT&T. We've already been in touch back and forth about this project, as
I mean,
far
do
as
you
the permit.
contact them if it's in the right of way, or do I have to call them, or?
Well, if it's on your property,
I'm not sure if it's on it or not, it's right on the edge.
we should go over and take a look. See how far out that right-of-way goes, and then, they can't go on your property, or they shouldn't, so we'll take a look.
That didn't stop them.
What's that?
Well,
That didn't stop them.
The only other thing is, I don't see them really checking, I see they're just starting the preliminary phase over on the highway here, and I don't really see them checking a lot of the manholes. And they got the curbing formed up by Sitco. They look like they're getting ready to pour the curb. They formed it all up, and I didn't even see them dig down to see if I know there was some issues over that way with the manholes. And then the other thing I was gonna ask is if the city has anything that has to go under the highway. We just had a break over there by Sitco, Now's the time. If there's a water line that's
They're not
kind
gonna
of
take up-
sketchy,
They're not gonna take up the concrete though, so. In this project, they're not pulling up the concrete, they're just resurfacing.
but I mean, you know, now would be the time if we had to go under the highway for
Yeah,
something.
I mean, yeah, we would have to.
You know,
do that.
because we just had that break there last year, and it was right on the corner. So I mean, you know, if we have to dig it up down the road, we're gonna have to go under the new blacktop, and then it's gonna be patched.
We'd have to just check all our crossings and see how many we have in
And
condition.
nobody has brought to my attention any need to go across. I have nothing in the electric.
No,
Dave-
I mean, as far as, water lines that are
Right.
kind of
Dave hasn't brought
borderline
anything to me.
problems.
But I can mention, I'll write it down, and I'll talk to him about it tomorrow morning.
As, I mean, I'd hate to see them get it laid down and then this winter have a break and then we got a big patch there.
You know, they are just gonna mill it and put a surface on it. They're not taking the old concrete road out underneath.
Yeah, I realize
Yeah,
that, but if
okay.
we have to dig it up this spring.
Yep.
Because we have a problem, we're gonna have to patch it.
That's correct. Yes, we are. I will touch base with Dave tomorrow morning.
Okay.
Make sure that there's nothing that he's aware of that we need to take care of.
That's all I got.
Chris?
I just have one comment about the HD issues. There are several channels that are out and several off-air HD is currently out, and they've been out since Friday. That's all I have.
The only thing I got is, just wanted to remind people, the road work on US 2 has started. You're gonna probably see some delays coming through. You just take your time, try to be safe, be patient. One side is down to one lane right now, and there may be delays, maybe trouble pulling out. Just be patient with it, and we don't want to see any accidents. We don't want to see anybody get hurt with this. So just please take your time, be safe with it. It's only going to be about a month that it's going to be under
See,
construction.
September 13th, I think they said they'd be done,
Okay.
just in time after Fair Days.
Okay. So that's all I got. Joe?
To address a question that Mark was asking about, scheduling with that manhole behind the laundromat. I had a conversation with Scott Moran this morning, and we are going to hold off until Baco is here to start paving US 2. So there's not any gravel in that area, so we're gonna plan on cutting and replacing as soon as Baco gets here to start blacktopping, so it can all be done in a timely manner, and there's not gravel all over the alley. So that's what the time frame is. That's, if you're wondering, that's why it's not getting done. That's what it is. Other than that, I don't have anything else.
How's the hydro generation?
It's going down, even though we've had a little bit of water. That last 3.5-inch rain we had a week ago or so gave us a good run for a few weeks during the month. But unit number 1 is still running. We're running 3 turbines on that unit, about 2.3 megawatts, which is a little better than a third of the utilities needs to serve its customers. So it's still doing very well.
Anything else?
No.
Mary? Tricia?
No.
Jay?
Nothing, thank you.
Ray? I have nothing. Okay, we have no executive session this evening, and with that, looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Support.
Motion made by Mark, supported by Chris. Roll call.
Mr. Oja?
Yes.
Mr. Menegini?
Yes.
Dr. Hayes?
Yes.
Mr. Gotstein?
Yes.
Mr. Babalani?
Yes.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.